This is Hannah Sanders. I'm on the line. I can give a brief update, and that is that the medical response team has been following closely with the new CDC guidance as well as Cordova's vaccination status. Everybody in Cordova that would like a vaccine that is eligible, so anybody over 12 years old, has been able or offered to receive at least their first dose. For the 12-year-olds and adults who have been able to complete the series. We feel very comfortable with the city moving forward to no longer require the mask mandate. And I'm available for any questions.
Councilman Sherman and then Schaefer.
Hi, Dr. Saunders. Thank you for calling in. Do you know what percentage of our community, like, can you tell us, like the other communities are doing, our percentage? I've been vaccinated.
We've been offering for quite some time because our Cordova population has been able to be vaccinated. We've been offering it to all comers, including people that are here for work and aren't Cordova residents. So really elucidating that data to say any number is kind of a guess. We think that we're well over the 50% for all residents. But beyond that, it would be really hard to tell. A lot of people have come to town and are already immunized. Many people are immunized while here but aren't part of our normal year-round population. So we feel comfortable. We think the uptake is very good. We have seen cases come up and not spread, which is another evidence that hopefully the vaccine is working and that the uptake in the community is as good as we think it is. But no, we don't have specific statistics to tell us where we're at.
That's fine. That was a great answer. Thanks.
Councilman Schaefer.
Yeah, that kind of leads into the question that I had, is that the dashboard shows that we have, it says 1,286 Cordovans that are vaccinated. And so I was just wondering if that number included, you know, people that were here for fishing or non-residents as well. So just clarifying the number that's on the...
It does. That's all comers.
It's all. Okay. Thank you.
And that is not capturing anybody that reports to us that they were vaccinated anywhere else. We are not collecting that data at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Sanders, Council? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sanders, for the update. So we have audience comments regarding agenda. Thank you. We have audience comments regarding agenda items. If you'd like to speak to an item on the agenda, you can just come up to this microphone up here and state your name for the record. Yes, please. And then if you want to call in, that number again is 253-6202. And if you could just state your name and residence for the record. And
yes, thank you, Council, first of all. And my name is Terry Phillips. I live at 930 Center Drive with my wife, Paula Phillips. She works, everybody knows where she works. I work at Wilson. And I've been there 15 years this year. And at 930 Center Drive is adjacent to a piece of property that you just put out for disposal. It is partially usable. It has a few trees. And it's Lot 11, Block 5, Odiak Park Subdivision. And we would like to buy that property. It's adjacent to ours, like I said. And we're open for whatever you folks would like to know. I don't know what else to say. I have the means to do something with it because I work at Wilson Construction. And I've talked with Tammy and John extensively about it. We can't borrow money against it unless we own it. I've already talked to the bank. We have really good credit. We're well established, like I say, and we'd be privileged to own that piece of property. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. Is there other public testimony on items on the agenda this evening? Okay, we don't have any callers. And so next item is chairpersons and representatives of boards and commissions. Do we have a CCMC Authority Board report or CCMC?
I have the CCMC report. The hospital continues to do well. We're monitoring the American Rescue Plan and anticipate funding opportunities coming up. Those haven't been completely released yet, so we're looking for hopefully having some capital improvements with grants coming, and continue to work with Alonka, collaborating mostly on vaccine right now, but often other things as well. So things seem to be going really smooth for the hospital. I think we're in a good place, and I'm glad to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions, council? Okay, thank you, Dr. Sanders. School board representative. Okay, hearing none. We don't have a student council representative. Approval of the consent calendar. Would council like to set any of those items aside? Okay, hearing none. We've got resolution 5-21-22, 5-21-23, certification of the 2021 property assessment roll, April 21st regular council meeting minutes, and May 5th council public hearing minutes. Roll call, please.
Melina Meyer,
Yes.
David Allison,
Yes.
Tom Baylor is absent, Jeff Gard,
Yes.
Kathy Sherman,
Yes.
David Gleason,
Yes.
and Ann Schaefer.
Yes.
The consent calendar is approved.
Thank you. So we had the minutes in the consent calendar and no bids to consider. I had a written report for the mayor's report, and would just add that I worked with Helen to, Helen put together some really nice professional summaries of the council's capital priorities, and we got those out to Senator Murkowski's staff and Sullivan's staff and Representative Young's staff in requested meetings. Had a meeting with Senator Murkowski's staff, anticipate having one with Sullivan's staff here pretty soon, and then Young's staff probably sometime after. Also been working a little on the marine highway system. Cordova's been taking off the transfer facility list because that went with the Chiniga and our maintenance. So that means the crew can't transfer here, and that's kind of a rub because we have the all-weather airport and we're close to Whittier and it's kind of convenient. So been working with the marine highway system a little bit on that, and would like to see us maintain that status. The good news is they're considering keeping, right now the plan is to keep the Aurora in Prince William Sound all winter except for the 8 weeks layup. And hopefully that can happen in Seward and give us even better service this winter. So, and then Representative Stutz sponsored the bill for the marine highway system funding and forward funding, and it passed unanimously in the House and Senate 57-0. So that's pretty exciting. And she's planning on coming here to Cordova in June. So looking forward to that. And that's all I had. Manager's report.
So I did submit a written report with your packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions around that. But the focus of my report now, and I'll be tag teaming with Dean, our interim finance director, to talk about where we are financially, and to share some news about where we might be getting some budget relief, which is part of the memo that I submitted. So just for starters, tonight is scheduled to be the last day of the legislative session, and they are required to pass a budget as of today, but it's just 7:10, not midnight, so there are hours yet to go. And the governor has called a special session, so it is anticipated that the full budget and the capital budget, both of which will impact our numbers, will not be known until after the special session has gavelled out. So the special session is allowed 30 days. I seriously doubt that the delegation are going to want to stay that long. So I think there'll be a lot of motivation to get that done quickly, perhaps within the week. So we'll keep you posted, but I don't have any updates on that front to report. But in the budget passed by both the House and the Senate is 100% school bond debt reimbursement, maximum revenue sharing. There is the ARPA, the American Recovery Act funds, have been allocated for communities, but in addition, with that comes a huge influx of resources for the state to distribute through probably Department of Community and Regional Affairs for capital projects that might be of importance to us. And as Dr. Sanders alluded earlier, we are aware that there's funding that's going to be available, but we do not yet know what the programs will be and how we apply for them. So lots of questions, but lots of opportunity, and I think that's the good news. Dean, are you on the line? I texted him to call in. Let's just see. Give me a moment here. So are there any questions at this moment in time around the opportunities that we have? As you can well imagine, we are well focused on getting that as much on the table as we possibly can. And I'm calling Dean right now to see if I can reach him. Hi, can you call in? Okay, great. Oh, thanks. So we will likely have, not likely, we will have budget amendments to bring forth to you as soon as we have a better idea of where the state is heading. I was hoping we'd have something for early June, but that isn't going to happen just because of the state's schedule right now. So I would say by the end of June, and Dean will be helping prepare that, and we'll get that in front of you. There'll be several things I just want to give you a heads up on. We did fund certain staff positions in the budget because we had some vacancies that we didn't fill. Those staff positions really are critical to making sure we can operate. So there'll be those kinds of revisions, as well as errors that we have discovered in a review of the budget and how we manage things. Those will be corrected, and then additional resources coming to the table. I did want to also report on one other piece of good news. It looks like the Harbor grant is a go. It isn't over till it's over, but right now House and Senate have funded that in the budget. Conference is likely to keep it there, and the governor is highly unlikely to veto it. So that's really great news. So, Dean, you're on the line?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to turn over to Dean. He has prepared, which is in your packet, a first quarter financial report. It's a snapshot of the first quarter. We still have obviously 3 quarters to go, but it's a picture, and I'm going to let Dean paint the colors in.
Okay. So jump back real quick, what Helen was talking about on the budget amendment. There will be a few budget amendments for projects that weren't finished last year, grants and stuff that need to be carried over so they can be completed in the next year. So that's going to be something else that will be in that budget amendment. So again, I just want to point out that it's nice to be here. The audit is still on schedule for the end of June, and I'm scheduled to be up there the weekend of June 28th for that week to work with the auditors, hopefully finalize the audit at that time. If you go through, part of this is the same kind of information I give every time, but I did on what I think it's page 20 of your packet. We see the comparison to December 20 going to March 20, the difference. It's showing that you dropped $1.8 million in the repurchase account, and I point out in the notes below, this is kind of a normal thing this time of year. That's why in the past I've said we need to get a larger fund balance in the general fund because this first 6 months of the year, there's not a lot of revenues that come in. And unfortunately, last year ended bad just because revenues were lower than expected because of the COVID. You know, money didn't come in the way it was supposed to. So it looks a little bit worse than it was, but again, it always looks this way this time of year because, like you say, most of your sales tax, property tax, fish tax, all that comes in starting June, July, August, September. That's when your big monies come in. If you look at your expenses, you're right on target. You know, the 25% of the year is gone. The overall general budget has spent 25% of their expenses. So they're right on target. Nobody's out of line. One thing I don't need to point out is I did go through in January and do all the transfers from enterprise funds, general fund, all the transfers back and forth between everybody. So transfers are all done at 100% now for the most part. So that's why the enterprise funds look lower than what they normally do, because I've made all the transfers. Now they'll catch up pretty fast. If you go down a little ways, you notice I've got the recommended cash reserves down there, 2 months, 3 months. Well, if you look at that overall budget, you do have 2 months cash reserves, because there's $3.2 million in the reserve fund, in the repurchase account, and 2 months worth of reserves would be right at $3 million. So it'd be nice if you had 3 months reserve, but that'd be 4, so you're about $1 million short of that. General fund, it's way off. You know, it should have about $1.7 million, but again, this time of year, it's always low until we can figure out some way to get the reserves higher in December when the year ends to cover this first couple of quarters. It's always going to run negative this time of year just because there's, like I said, there's no money coming in. Those are the big highlights. You know, as I go through audit, we're finding a bunch of, you know, we're getting a lot of it done, making a lot of corrections. Been working with different vendors. I've been talking to grant people, getting things straightened out, talking to the banks. So it's all looking really good so far. You know, haven't found any major problems with audit as I'm going through. Just the normal cleanup stuff that you do every year. So I can leave it at that. If you look, I've included some other reports for comparison, you know, last year's and this year's documents. You can compare to where we were last year to this year. And if you look compared to last year to this year, you're pretty much right in the same spot. Like I said, general fund's a little bit worse, but that's just because of COVID. And some of those things Helen's talked about will help fill some of those holes back in if all these grants come in. So that's looking good. And when you look at I don't know if you read her report on finance departments getting a big change around, people moving around, so that's going to look good. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Councilman Schaefer, and then Allison.
Hi, yeah, thanks so much, Dean. I was just wondering what's going on with the, if you had any insight into the water and refuse enterprise funds, or the sewer and water enterprise funds on page 22 under cash allocations.
Yeah.
They're pretty in the red both for,
negative like that for a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
You know, they haven't got any worse, they haven't got any better. You know, I think part of that, I know Sam has been going through a water rate study with the end of the LT2 grant to see what has to happen there to get those back online. But they have both been negative like that for a couple of years. And the refuge fund, it's been higher than what it is now. But I know they bought some equipment and stuff too recently, so that's brought it down. But unfortunately, if you go back and check out last year, they were that negative last year too. So We don't know if it's, and they're not overspending, because you look at, they're always under budget, and the revenues come in, so it's just weird. So you need to look at the, are the rates high enough? Are they bringing enough in? So, but I think Sam's working on, like I say, a water study to see if that's right. And it may include sewer rates too. But, I'm just not sure what to do there without really taking time to dig into those, because they have been negative for years. But on the other side, if you look down, they're negative up there, but if you look down to their reserves, they both got, like sewer's got $700,000 in reserves. So, and water's got over $500,000 in reserves. So if you net them with their reserve funds, because we do transfer monies to reserves every year still, that they're positive if you net them with the reserves.
Yeah, I guess so. My follow-up question, what is the difference between just the enterprise funds and then their reserve funds? The depreciation funds are for replacing, like big replacements.
The reserve funds, every year that they put money aside for replacing equipment.
Yeah.
And so that's what they, if they have a big project that comes up or something, that's what those reserve funds are there for. So, and like I said earlier, I've already made all the transfers to reserve. So that kind of affects the cash balance in the Fund 503, 504, 505, because I've moved all that money down into reserves this year, what they've transferred. So, but the reserves are there for replacing it when they have a truck go out or a grader or whatever. It's there to replace it.
Okay.
Or in the case of the water or sewer, if something happens at the treatment plant, they've got money that they can use to do major repairs if they need to.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councilman Schaefer?
Yeah, thank you.
Councilman Ellison?
Yeah, my question, Dean, is what would you suggest is an appropriate amount to have in a sweep account? Seems like that's a lot of money to have not making any interest.
I suppose it does make interest, but not a lot, because no place to put cash reserves are going to make anything. Unfortunately, you put $1 million aside and you're lucky to make 1%. So you need to have enough there for cash flow, and that goes down to that information on, I think it's page 20 of your thing, where it says recommended cash reserves, where you have 2 month reserves or 3 months reserves. So the easy side is, like I said, right now you've got the 2 months reserves. 2 months reserves would be $2.9 million. When you go up here for repurchase, you've got 3.2. So you've got overall city cash reserves of 2 months. If no revenues came in, zip, for the next few months, you have enough money to spend for 2 months. So that's kind of where you're at. And that's overall. If you just want to go with the general fund, well, then you're too low, because you should have almost $2 million, and you've got negative 1.5. It depends on the time of year. When it comes to December, you can see in December you had $5 million. But it's already going down because you've spent a lot of money in the first few months of the year. So depending on what time of the year it is, having $5 or $6 million in there in December it is a good thing to get you through the first quarter or the first half of the year.
Yeah, I guess I guess it just what I'm thinking, Dean, is I just don't think it's I think we're way over having it in a sweep account that goes back and forth. I think that we need the reserves, yes, but they don't necessarily need to be in that sweep account. They could be in the UBSCT or some other account. The cash is still accessible to us. Anyway, something something to think about.
I can say one way I used to do it in other cities is I used the AML account. I kept all my, because I hope the bank's not there, but I found that sweep accounts usually cost you more than they make you. And so I always kept a lot of money in the AML account because you can make a phone call and they just transfer the money the day you need it. And usually they pay more than the repurchase. But that also means somebody has to be watching it. Every time you do something, you have to make sure you're there to do the transfers so you don't bounce checks. That's the only advantage to the sweep account is you never bounce a check because they sweep it in and out to pay the checks. If you put it anyplace else, then somebody has to actively look at it every day and say, we just wrote $500,000 of accounts payables. We need to transfer $500,000 in. Or we just did payroll, you got to move money in. If you put it anyplace else other than a repurchase, somebody has to look at it every day when you run checks to make sure the money's there to pay those checks.
Yeah, I'm good with that
The
all.
last thing you want to do is start bouncing a bunch of paychecks.
Yeah, Dean, I'm good with all of that. Just something for our investment committee whenever they get started to add to their considerations list. I think we need to evaluate how we're doing that. But anyway, I said it. Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Other questions, council? Okay, Helen?
I think that's pretty much it for me. I did just want to also say that if you read my memo, the really good news is that the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, resources that we're going to be getting will be allowed to be used to cover lost revenues. So we don't have to spend it directly on COVID-related expenses, and that will be a good plug for our revenue.
Okay, any questions for Manager Howarth? Okay, City Clerk's report.
I just have that you guys just certified the roll by approving that consent calendar. So then the next step is the mill rate, which you'll see a resolution at the next meeting to set the mill rate. And our taxable value barely went up from last year. So, and our revenue goal, what we put in the budget was the same as last year also. So I don't think it'll have a lot of considerations or, options, but that'll be at the next meeting. And that's all I have to report. Can answer any questions.
Any questions, council? Any of the reports? Okay, we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions, starting with Ordinance 1197. And this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, repealing and reenacting CCMC Title 15 Hospital Services to clarify the authority for the sale, transfer, exchange, or disposal of the community medical center or a city-owned interest or facility in its inventory, providing the disposal notice and process requirements for such a transaction, and updating and reformatting Title 15, its definitions, and its organization for uniformity. And this is a second reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion, Meyer, second, Sherman. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councilman Meyer?
Yeah, I have 2 amendments to make. The first amendment is I move to amend Cordova Municipal Code 15.10.0770 C as proposed in Ordinance 1197, and it's on page 37. The first part C to read, council may authorize the use of alternative disposal and notice requirements for the disposal, substantial restructuring, exchange, sale, or transfer of an interest of CCMC itself or in real property or buildings within CCMC's inventory, so long as council adopts a resolution containing the following. And then 1 and 2 will remain unchanged. And the clerk has a written copy of the change. And then the second amendment is, I move to amend ordinance 1197 proposed in Cordova Municipal Code 15.10.080 A2 and AC to read as the following. Number 2, board chair or other individual appointed by the board. And number 3 says mayor or individual appointed by city council.
Okay, we have a motion to amend.
Oh, second. Sorry.
Have second, Councilman Sherman. Would you like to speak to your motion to amend?
Yeah, these were just a couple corrections that the attorney wrote up, and they just clarify some of the language in the ordinance just to make it a little clearer. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, to your second to the amendment, Councilman Sherman?
Yes, that's what we discussed, and just clarifications.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? Councilman Schaefer? Then,
Would it be possible to read the first amendment change again, just so I didn't hear it? Oh, I'll just read it.
Can you read that out loud, please?
Sure. Okay, so the first amendment was on page 37 under 15.10.170 C. It says council may authorize the use of alternative disposal and notice requirements for the dissolution, disposal, substantial restructuring, exchange, sale, or transfer of an interest in CCMC itself or in real property or buildings within CCMC's inventory, so long as council adopts a resolution containing the following. And then numbers 1 and 2 remain the same. So I guess it's just clarifying the it, so some of the language there. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and the attorney said they basically don't change much on there, just clarification of wording.
Susan, you had to.
If you want a little more information, if you see A and in that same section, when I read it, I thought A and C of the original one were exactly the same. So I asked Holly, what's going on? That because one of them, A, talks about you guys doing all this stuff. You can do dissolution, disposal, substantial restructuring, blah, 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 by council via ordinance. And then the original C sounded very similar, but it said via resolution. So I said, please clarify that. So the way she reworded C, it's just more clear that you're just picking the alternative disposal method by resolution, but you actually do the sale by ordinance. Anyway, that was on that one. And then you guys had all talked about the second amendment, just clarifying that it didn't have to be a council member. It could be an individual appointed by council, and the same with the board.
Okay, council, any further discussion to the amendment? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
So on the amendment, Tom Baylor is absent. David Gleason,
Yes.
Ann Schaefer,
Yes?
David Allison,
Yes.
Jeff Guard,
Yes.
Melina Meyer,
Yes.
and Kathy Sherman.
Yes.
So the amendment is approved 6-0.
Okay, now to the main motion, Councilman Meyer.
I'm in support of it.
Okay, Vice Mayor Sherman.
Yes, I think we're all pretty, at least I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out.
Okay, further discussion, council? Okay, hearing none, this is a roll call vote. It's a final reading, so.
Kathy Sherman,
Yes.
Jeff Guard,
Yes.
David Gleason,
Yes.
Ann Schaefer,
Yes?
David Allison,
Yes.
Tom Baylor is absent. Melina Meyer.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, council, if there's no objection, school board chair Barb Jules just was able to join us. Would you care to hear a school board report? Any objection? No. Okay.
Thank you for inviting me up. I just came from the 6th grade promotion ceremony, so that's why I was late. It was, as always, an uplifting and heartwarming event to see those students who went into school so small and now so big and confident and ready to head on to the next thing. You know, they can do that because of the community support, so it was great. Last Saturday, got to participate in the high school graduation, and same thing, and all of those students have great plans for their future and look well prepared, which is really nice to see. So those were the fun things. We approved a budget at our last meeting that we're all pretty concerned about. It's pretty skinny, and at the moment we don't have funding for pre-K. And there was a lot of discussion about that, and we have continued to get community comments about that. And it's not that the board or the administration in any way doesn't value pre-K. We absolutely do, but it costs a lot of money, and it's not funded through the education funding. Education funding is only for K through 12. So in these circumstances, we're scraping for how to do that. So I want you to be aware that we're really struggling with that and looking for a way to do it. One of the things people talk a lot about is being very concerned about the reading scores and reading proficiency with reason, right? And one of the best tools for improving reading and literacy is pre-K. So we're looking forward to having lots of conversation with that. Pete's been advocating at the state level around that issue. And the board will continue to do so as well, but it's a pretty big concern at this point for parents and staff and the board. We're about to wrap up school. Tomorrow is the last day. In my little speech to the 6th graders, I got to say how much we all learned that actually getting to go to school is cool. So we are looking forward to opening up full time. At the moment, the plan is to have full days, with Friday being optional. Staff will be in the building, work will be happening, but the students can choose to participate in the projects that they're involved in as opposed to a structured school day. And the feedback we've gotten from everyone has been great. They're very excited to be getting to go back full days, having lunch in the buildings, you know, all the things that make school a little more regular. So we're all pretty excited about that. Any questions for me?
Councilman Gleason?
Yeah, that pre-K, are you guys, if it's not funded by the state, can you charge the parents?
So the way that our pre-K has happened in the past is that we are required by law to provide pre-K services to students who qualify through independent education plans. If they have some type of special need or learning disability or need to catch up, and they test that way, then we provide services. And those services can be provided in a lot of ways, and this year we provided it sort of on one-on-one individual instruction. So that being said, that when we had a pre-K program with those students and included peers, the peers did pay. But it's not enough to cover the cost of the program.
Other questions, council? Okay.
I appreciate the question because it's a good one. Yeah. All right.
All right, thanks for the report. So council, back to resolution 05-21-24. Next item is a resolution of the Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, updating the 2021 land disposal maps by making an approximately 13,500 square foot portion of Alaska Land Survey 79-258 available?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion Schaefer and second Sherman. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councilman Schaefer?
Yeah, I had some questions about the planning commission meeting that is referred to in here, and so are we able to ask a planning?
Yes. Nancy, would you join us at the podium here? Nancy's chair of the Planning Commission and can speak to any questions you might have.
I can try.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Planning Commission did not recommend moving this to available. And so I was just wondering if you could just summarize a couple of the points. If
Yeah,
you're able to
and-
summarize the conversation into a couple bullet points.
Best of my memory, the main people all support a community garden, really wanted to see something go forward. There was right out of the gate a lot of concern about this particular area because of the city using gravel from the area and potentially needing further gravel from that area. There was concern about the winds that come through there, and that it wouldn't really be that great a place, that it wasn't south-facing enough or sunny enough. And so there was a lot of discussion about other potential places, and no one place was found. It ranged from above the Pioneer Cemetery area, wondering if some of that area could be cleared and would be a good, better south-facing area. The ballpark area, or what's now, I guess, more referred to as our dog park over by the camper park on Whiteshed Road. We listened to some presentations by both Kristen Carpenter, who was on the phone, and David, I never can say his last name, Ianosi,
Chris Iannizoni.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Apologies for butchering that. In any case, and people were, one member was very impressed with how much money has been raised grant-wise for this project and felt really badly that we weren't going to be able to go forward with what they were proposing. But those were the major points, I think, unless. Sam, am I missing anything from your memory?
I think the only other comments that came up was this would require a conditional use permit to be into that area because it's waterfront industrial zoned. So that's a whole nother process. And then just parking, we have wanted and inherited some leftover gravel from this project at Hibbie Cove. We want to keep that there. It's right in that area. We won't be using it in one summer, but we'll dwindle it down as quick, So there was some of those kinds of concerns as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
But otherwise, you did good.
Councilman Meyer.
Was 5.5 mile ever talked about, or was this wanting to be more of a year-round kind of thing? Because I know that we just approved another garden for out at 5.5 mile, and I kind of think it'd be great to have them close together.
Yeah, there was a little discussion of the 5.5 mile one being both not year-round, but, and this one is wanting to set up, as the plans you see in here show, a geodesic dome that would have a year-round place for plants to be raised and I don't know a lot about the 5.5 mile area, but it apparently is a little bit different concept than the community gardens and being pursued here. So, more of a private garden, though it has some public community involvement kind of thing. So,
Other questions? Councilman Sherman?
I don't know if you can answer this, Nancy. It's very close, so it's in between the burn pile and the new science center. Has this been discussed with the science center?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because I feel like it's going to butt right up against the science center's facility, but I don't know that for sure. And do you know, does funding, is there a time critical for funding?
I don't know the answer to that either, maybe.
They have EDA funding. There is often some flexibility, and we can certainly ask. But I think ultimately the project has to be in a place where it can be successful. So, and I think that seems to be one of the issues with the Planning Commission.
Yeah.
Councilman Schaefer?
So I noticed on the maps, it's, there's like a circle on the land map, and it's a circle inside of like a larger parcel. And so how, is it just part of, is there any special process for just chunking off a piece of property off of a larger parcel like this, or?
So I guess the vision I had was that they are really not quite sure of how much space they are thinking they need. In that area, that's a small space of flat land.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we leased it, we would do something like we did down here on the recycle lot, where we said 1,300 square feet. We drew a little square on the lot, a portion of ALS, the whole legal description, 1,300 feet as depicted in this map. That's what the lease would look like.
Okay.
If that's what you were.
Yeah, I was just having a hard time. Yep.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, without it's very difficult to put it on the ground without some solid plans and numbers. You know, the square footage changed. I think we have 3 now, so we'd have to be able to go down there and walk it out to really get it.
Councilman Gleason?
Sam, isn't that the quarry though, Sam?
Yes.
So, there's got to be a better spot. That's just a blowhole, a dark blowhole. And it's the quarry, which we owe people rock out of that, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, that flat spot would be a potential staging area if rock was to be taken out. That would have to be considered, yeah.
I'm sure the Science Center's going to be, or Dawson's going to be parking rigs all over there.
Maybe.
Until that building's built.
Other questions, council? Before we go back to Councilman Schaefer, anyone else, any other council that hasn't spoken to it? Councilman Schaefer?
I don't have a question. I was just going to say that I really do think it's a good idea. I mean, I love the goal of it, and I would love to see this in the community, and hopefully we can find a good spot for it, because, yeah, it'd be great to have something like this in the community, for sure.
Okay. I'll take that as maybe opposition. Other discussion, council? Hearing none.
I have one more.
Councilman Myers.
I don't know if you know, Helen. It seems like they're kind of have funding available looking for a lot. So if this doesn't get approved to make this lot available, they're still going to be actively looking for another location, and maybe can present some ideas to us.
Yes, I believe that is true.
Okay.
I think this is a priority project, and I'm sure that they will continue pursuing it and look for alternatives.
Good.
And since I've seen this, I've been thinking, and probably all of you, any of you might have some ideas. Oh, we could, what about, so we just need to make sure that all options are being considered and we find the right one.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion, Councilman Gleason?
I just want to say I'm definitely in favor of having the greenhouse things. I didn't want you to think that was negative in that, but there got to be a better spot. We can figure out a better spot.
Councilman Sherman?
Yeah, I feel the exact same way.
Is there any council would like to speak in favor of this? Okay, any more discussion at all? Okay, then I'm just gonna ask for a voice vote. All those in favor? Hearing none, all opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, the motion fails. Next item is Resolution 05-21-25. That's a resolution of the Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, authorizing the city manager to negotiate directly with the native village of Odiak regarding the transfer, exchange, merger, or sale of city and CCMC assets in furtherance of a joint community medical care model of service.
I move to approve Resolution 05-21-25.
Second?
Have a motion, Vice Mayor Sherman, and second, Councilman Schaefer. Vice Mayor Sherman, to your motion.
I think we've talked about this, and this is offering us a great opportunity to combine resources and potentially work together to form a very special medical care campus that will suit our community to a T.
To your second, Councilman Schaefer.
Yeah, I think we've been having some really productive conversations lately, and this last year has shown that CCMC and Native Village of Odiak can work together to deliver quality care to the community, and so I think this is, I'm in support of this.
Councilman Gleason.
Yeah, the only thing that's got me concerned a little is its joint community medical care model, and I thought it would be tribal healthcare model. So I was curious why, if we were, that's what we were shooting for all along. So if we're going to be, transparent, then that would be what I would think. That's what we're going to hopefully end up with. So
Helen?
I think the word joint is perhaps not the best word, but I think the intent here is when people think of a tribal hospital, they think of it and its service to a tribe. And our intent is to, on all sides, is to broaden the scope of the services that are provided. So the community medical center model, which is intended to be broad, and the tribal model, which is intended to serve its tribal members. There is an interest in broadening the scope of both entities and their ability to provide that service to a broad community, not just tribal members, but to a community members, broadly speaking. So I think that is the intent of the language.
yeah, so the tribal healthcare model doesn't mean that only tribal people get to go there. It's just, it's going to be operated by NVE, and the city would no longer be in the doctrine business.
Right, and I think it speaks to transfer, exchange, merger, or sale of city and CCMC assets. So it opens the possibility to do any combination or any direction that makes the most sense through the negotiating process.
Okay. And I guess I can kind of get behind that.
Councilman Meyer, and then Sherman.
Yeah, I'm gonna support this. I think we need to have, this is the first step into having that smaller group to explore all the options. There's a lot in there. about transfer, exchange, merger, joint community. I think there's a lot of different avenues that we can go down. But I think the first step is to forming this committee that can really dive in and answer some of those questions and give us some directions and answers of what way to go, because anything has when we're impacting our healthcare, it's going to impact a bunch of different people. And so having good information making these decisions, I think, is important. So I'm going to be in favor of this resolution.
Vice Mayor Sherman.
That's what I was going to say too. This is a broad resolution, but it gives us the opportunity with the ordinance that we passed to really begin the discussion as a group, and we have really competent leaders right now in both healthcare facilities. And again, what we just went through with COVID shows that we can work together in the community, and I find that very exciting. And I just think that there's funding opportunities from both sides, and the possibilities could be endless at this point for us to develop something maybe unique to rural Alaska. So it's broad, but I don't get worried by any of these words in here. They're all there for a reason.
It sounds like support. Further discussion, council?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Baylor.
Councilman Baylor.
Yeah, I was able to call in here and got the last motion, but I just let you know I'm here and I just support it.
Thank you. Further discussion, council? Helen? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion passes. A resolution 05-21-26, a resolution of the Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, approving emergency order 2021-01, thereby extending the city's declaration of a local emergency arising from COVID-19 and repealing and renumbering the city's COVID-19 emergency rules.
Move to approve.
Second?
I have motion Schaefer and second Meyer. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councilman Schaefer?
It was the other direction,
Oh, sorry.
but I can speak to it. Well, I guess, I am in favor of this. As of right now, we had, Dr. Sanders was on earlier, and she said that the medical team is comfortable at this point moving forward, with the vaccination rates in the community. As I understand it, private businesses can still choose what they'd like at their establishments in terms of mask wearing, and as well, people can make their own decisions as well based on comfort level and vaccination status. So I am in favor, and I think this still keeps us in a good place to be able to take advantage of or access federal and state funds and stuff that could come our way.
Councilman Meyer.
Yeah, I agree with everything that was just said, and I do think it's important to the community to be aware that there are going to be some businesses still with a mask rule for a little while. At least speaking for myself, we're going to keep a mask rule at the reluctant until the employees that have initiated their vaccination process to get fully vaccinated, the ones that want to. So that may be a case for different businesses. Different ones have different clienteles, some in the travel industry, some more local, and each place and person is just going to be making these decisions and having to make hard decisions about them. So if we could just show grace and respect to some people deciding to wear masks, businesses deciding to wear masks, but I am very excited. It feels really good to be in a spot where people feel safe again, and people have the protection and access to the protection that they need. So I think this is great news. And like I said, I am very excited. I wish everything happened at once, but just be careful because some places are moving at different speeds. But I am very excited.
Further discussion, council?
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor. The only one way to test the vaccine is to stack it up against the Rona. See what happens.
Other discussion, council? Councilman Sherman?
I'm very much in favor too, and I'm like to echo what Melina said because I think it's it's going to teach us all to be very patient and respectful of others' wishes and beliefs. And I had a question for Helen, I guess. I'm thinking specifically about the library. And will cleaning protocols continue, or people linger in the library, and I just am wondering.
So as it stands right now, we're evaluating what we need to do. I think there's general consensus that many of the cleaning protocols that we put in place at the beginning of the pandemic are not really the effective tools that we thought they were. And so we are really evaluating what we should and shouldn't do. And so we will make sure that is the best science involved, that we do whatever it is. We will reopen our buildings. We don't have any number restrictions, so there's no limit on the number of people who can be in the library or be in the museum. I think what we all need to take home from this is that while the CDC did say, you know, if you're fully vaccinated, you can wear your mask, we all are relying on the honor system here. And we all need to be aware that if we are uncomfortable or unsure of our own personal safety, that the best defense is going to be to wear a mask no matter what. So we'll just have to be careful. I think the other thing I just want to really reiterate, and I'm grateful for this conversation, but if those of you that have been following the news, Ketchikan has had a major outbreak, and they are in basically lockdown. Didn't think that was going to happen. And what I appreciate about this this resolution is that it allows us to keep in place our emergency order in case we need to quickly act. It also signals that we, like every other community in Alaska, still acknowledges that the risk is there, as Ketchikan just discovered, as Fairbanks discovered a couple weeks ago. So we can't presume that this is done. But I think as our vaccination rates get up and as all of us get our own safety protocols in place, this is how I choose to protect myself, everyone's going to be fine. So just want to reassure everyone that by doing this, it doesn't remove the option for people to still take care of themselves in whatever way they see fit.
No, and I'm anxious to go back to the library. I was specifically thinking to the children under 12 and story time and a lot of that interaction. I hope that we could look at that and see what other libraries are doing in the States too, because I know that's a concern upstairs.
Yeah, I think the state library is coming out with their own protocols, which is really great. There's resources available for all of us to lean on so that we do the right thing.
Okay, good, thanks. I'm in favor of it. I just had some concerns.
Thank you. Other discussion, council? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We don't have unfinished business, so no miscellaneous business. Council direction on disposal and method of disposal of a portion of Alaska State Land Survey 79-258.
So that can't be taken up now that you,
Yeah, because they passed the,
the
or that failed.
making
so
it available failed, therefore
So-
this is moot.
It just took itself off the agenda.
Yes.
Next item is council direction on disposal and method of disposal of Lot 11, Block 5, Odiak Park Subdivision.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion, Gleason, second, Sherman. And,
Point of order,
I'm sorry.
They didn't finish the motion.
Oh, okay.
amended disposal method.
Move to approve by which option?
You have to pick an
Oh,
option there.
jeez.
Option number 1. I got to read it, right?
Yes, please.
I move to let's see. I move to dispose of Lot 11, Block 5, Odiak Park Subdivision as outlined in Cordova Municipal Code 5.22.060B by option number 1, negotiating an agreement with Terry and Paula Phillips to lease or purchase the property.
That's a motion, and that's what you seconded?
Correct.
Okay. Would you like to discuss your motion, Councilman Gleason?
I'm in favor of it. They're the property to the left. They have a house on it, so definitely be nice for them to get that.
Vice Mayor Sherman?
And as pointed out, purchase could generate revenue for the city. It's a win-win.
Okay. Other council discussion? Councilman Schaefer?
I guess my only concern is if adjacent landowners have been informed or need to be informed. I don't know if there's a process for that.
Sam was going to come up and speak to that.
Thank you.
There is no, we don't notify property owners. It's been at the P&Z meeting. It's been here. That's how it always rolls when we do land disposal. I will ask that you provide direction on if you want to lease with option to purchase or purchase agreement, because I've heard both. So if you decide to move forward with direct negotiation.
Councilman Meyer?
I guess my only question would be, this lot has been marked available for a while. It hasn't been like unavailable, available.
It just became available when the 2021 land disposal maps were made available. Prior to that, it was, we had it not available because of a snow dump. But since that time, they've refined how they are doing snow removal down there. So there's 2 lots on Center Drive. Both were made available in 2021.
Okay.
So I think it was even maybe February when those were approved.
Yeah.
Because it went through the Harbor Commission.
So it's a somewhat newly available
It's
lot.
pretty new,
I mean,
yeah.
as far as our,
We only approved land disposal once a year. So
right.
yeah,
Okay.
it's new this year.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I don't know if it affects anything, but just curious.
So, council, I don't feel like it'd be totally inappropriate to get a clarification from the public testimony on this to clarify. I think I heard they were interested in purchasing, and I'm seeing nods, yes.
In their email.
And so I think the planner was suggesting, or public works director was suggesting that amendment to clarify purchase or lease as an amendment would help.
Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment
Councilman Gleason?
to remove so let's see, lease or, so we got negotiating agreement with Terry and Paula Phillips to purchase the property.
Second?
Have a motion to amend in a second. Would you like to speak to your motion?
That narrows it down for Sam.
Okay.
So
Melina?
Yeah, I think it's better, especially areas that we can sell the property rather than doing lease agreements where it's appropriate. And I think this is very appropriate for that.
Okay. Councilman Gleason, I'm sorry, Councilman Allison.
Yeah, just a little bit of history with Cordova's land sales. For those of you who have been around a while, know that we've gone back and forth on this for some time. And I guess if the goal is to just get the property in private hands and not worry about whether they're going to actually perform anything on it or build anything on it, then selling it, just selling it is fine. What the city has done in the past, when people, you know, there have been people that came and wanted to buy the property and they needed to own it to get a bank loan or something. That's when we started doing the deeds of trust. And some of us know where that ended us up with a bunch of other problems when somebody could speculate on a piece of property and sit on it for 7 years and have to pay a $20,000 fine for their deed of trust buyout. So, if, you know, but that's how we did sales with the deed of trust, because that was the only way we could guarantee, not really guarantee, it just guarantees us some more money if the project wasn't done. So we went back to leasing with the option to purchase if they did the project. So I guess my question is, with this lot, is do we care that they do anything with the property? Are we expecting them to do a project, or are we just selling them the land and then, you know, we don't care if they're speculating on it or gonna actually build something or that. So there's nothing in the proposal that says they're actually gonna do something. They've mentioned that they've got the wherewithal to do something and they intend to do something with it, but there's nothing tying this project into that. So I guess I just wanted to throw that out there for you to think about is, you know, with land sales in the past, that's the city has tried to guarantee some type of improvements were done to the property when we sell any property. And that's gone back and forth from lease to sale with a deed of trust, or to lease with option to purchase once that project was done. So, you know, and it's not clear from this proposal that the proposers are requiring the land to get some kind of a bank loan. I don't know if they're gonna borrow money, or if they're gonna, you know, build as time goes on, or what. I don't have that information. Anyway, if we're going to flat out sell or lease it, I guess I'm not in favor of removing the lease. I think it should be negotiated to lease or purchase. Actually, I'm not sure I'm in favor of direct negotiation and not putting it out for bid. We've gotten in trouble for doing that before in the past too. So I guess I'm not in favor of the amendment, and I'm not in favor of the motion as it stands either. I'd prefer to do number 4, and number 4 could still go down those ways, but at least then we get more information about what they intend to do with the property, and we can decide at that point in time. So anyway, that's my thoughts.
Other discussion, council?
Mayor, Council Baylor.
Councilman Baylor.
Yeah, Mr. Elton brings up a lot of good points that I agree with. We also, in the past, have sold small lots, but then we required the property owner to remove that lot line, make it all one lot, make it a buildable lot. Therefore, we weren't selling land for just speculating. I also thought it was a practice, and I might be wrong, but I thought it was a practice in the past that we would notify anybody within 300 feet or 300 yards of any property that we're going to do something with. I was surprised to hear that hasn't been done, or maybe I'm mistaken on that, but if not, it should be done. And I agree we should go through our normal process, not direct negotiation. I think that's just a fair way, and that's exactly why our procedure that we have for selling property came about, because we had these deals that were done with just the city manager or the council, and people didn't know, and then the sale was done with, and they were all, if I'd have known that, I would have bought it. So I would recommend we go back to our normal process, and I agree that people buying the property should put up some type of proposal and what they intend to do with it. So that's my thoughts. I wouldn't vote for it the way it is now.
Okay, further discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, this
is Councilman Guard.
Councilman Guard.
I'd prefer to see option 2. I am in agreement with both Councilmember Allison and Councilmember Baylor on forms of disposal, but I'd prefer number 2.
Okay. Councilman Sherman.
I'm just backtracking here. Didn't we just do this with a piece of property that Craig Kuntz wanted that we went back out? So why don't we should be consistent?
Councilman Meyer, then Schaefer.
I guess my thought process with land disposal, I've never really been a complete fan of how to go about it in general, and I haven't really thought of a better way. So, but my train of thought is if something has been on the available land maps and it goes through planning and zoning, and when they suggest direct negotiation, that's normally what I go with because it has been on the available list. A couple times we've done properties where we've taken it off the available, we've taken it from unavailable, it's been not only a map, and then make it available and then do direct negotiation. I don't like that. I would rather it go out to seal bid because we've been advertising it as not available. I think because this lot was marked available, I think this is the process we have. So I'm still in favor of going with the recommendation of the Planning Commission. And maybe we can have a work session about how we do land disposals. I don't think it's a bad idea contacting property owners and letting them know that land is available next to you and, hey, someone put in a letter of interest, property next to yours. I don't think those are bad ideas, but that hasn't been any of the process since I've been on council. So I'm in favor with going with the recommendation of the Planning Commission on this one.
Okay. And we are speaking to the amendment, so at this point, but Councilman Sherman, just for clarification, that disposal of the Kuntz property, for the record, that was by sealed bid or?
Proposals.
Sealed proposals, okay. Councilman Schaefer.
I was just going to say that I would also prefer the sealed proposals option because it has been historically unavailable and was just made available, and so it's a busy time of year. People may not be refreshing the city land map page. So I don't know. I would just say because it's so new, giving more visibility or more transparency about the property, I think would be in best practice.
Okay, it sounds like general opposition to the amendment. Any other discussion, council?
Yes, Mayor, Council Baylor.
Councilman Baylor.
Yeah, and just another thought process. The issue of monetary value is not really in consideration with the Planning and Zoning Commission, whereas I think that's something that council should be looking at. And anytime you put something out for a bid, maybe get multiple bidders on it, then your value may come up. So that's again another reason that I would prefer that this goes out to bid.
Okay. Further discussion on the amendment. Councilman Schaefer.
Could you repeat the amendment?
So the amendment was to, the main motion was to dispose of the parcel by negotiating an agreement with Terry and Paula Phillips to lease or purchase the property. And the amendment struck to lease so that it just reads, disposed by negotiating an agreement with Terry and Paula Phillips to purchase the property. Thank you. Further discussion on the amendment.
I would just say it was in the packet and we didn't have a single complaint. Nobody complained about it, so.
Okay. Can we do a roll call vote on the amendment?
Oh,
Okay,
right here.
Oh, Councilman Sherman, did you have more discussion?
No. No.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? I think I heard pretty general opposition. All those in favor?
Do you think we should do a
Susan?
roll call?
Yeah, go ahead. Roll call vote, please.
So on the amendment, Tom Baylor,
No.
David Allison,
No.
Melina Meyer,
Yes.
David Gleason,
Yes.
Kathy Sherman,
No.
Ann Schaefer,
No.
Jeff Gard.
No.
So the amendment fails.
Amendment fails.
To
So now the main motion reads to dispose of Lot 11, Block 5, Odiak Park Subdivision as outlined in Cordova Municipal Code 5.22.060B by negotiating an agreement with Terry and Paula Phillips to lease or purchase the property.
I'd like to make an, oh,
Sorry, is that discussion?
no, I'd like to make an amendment. I was sorry.
Same amendment she's got. So
Yeah.
either one.
Okay, Councilman Schaefer.
I'd like to change the main motion, the method of disposal, to requesting sealed proposals to lease or purchase the property.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend to disposal by option 2, requesting sealed proposals to lease or purchase the property. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
I just think, yeah, just because it was newly added as available to this year's property and land use maps, just to get more awareness out to potential adjacent landowners that this property is indeed available.
Councilman Allison?
Yeah, nothing new to add to that. That's exactly what I would say.
Okay. Further discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, Council Baylor.
Councilman Baylor?
Yeah, I definitely support it. And the other issue is it's not like we have an applicant there that wants to get starting to build a building tomorrow. In fact, there isn't even a plan. So the only disadvantage of this is it creates a little bit more work for staff, but I think the benefits of putting it out to the general public far outweigh that. So I support it.
Okay. Further discussion on the amendment? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so the main motion is now I move to dispose of Lot 11, Block 5, Odiak Park Subdivision as outlined in Cordova Municipal Code 5.22.060B by requesting sealed proposals to lease or purchase the property. Discussion. Councilman Allison.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that I support the project and I support selling the land. We put that up there, support a project on there, but like I said earlier, we've gotten in trouble for doing things direct in the past, and there doesn't seem to be any extenuating circumstances on this to require direct negotiations this time. The proposers still have every opportunity to put in a proposal once those RFP goes out. And so being an adjacent landowner, they've certainly got a head start on winning that proposal. So support anybody that wants to invest in the community. And I just think we need to be sure that we're doing it the right way, and that's flip-flopped over the years, and maybe it's time once again to think about that again and how we do that. But I certainly support putting it out for proposals.
Yep. Other discussion, council? Okay, so all those in favor of the motion as amended?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, amended motion carries. Discussion of COVID-19 emergency response. Any discussion, council? Okay, looks like we're in a new phase. Pending agenda, capital improvements list, calendar, elected and appointed officials list. Anything on our radar for pending agenda, Susan? Okay. When do we generally think about summer meetings?
I don't know. We've had COVID. I haven't even thought about that.
That's okay. We can think about it first meeting in June. We generally drop the second meeting if we do, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we like to give staff and Helen a chance to kind of forecast what kind of business might be on that second agenda. So, all right, hearing none, we'll go back to audience participation. And that call-in number again is 253-6202. In the little lull here, I just want to thank the Planning Commission Chair and School Board Chair for coming in and give reports. And looks like we have some discussion. Audience participation.
Yes, Nancy Bird, I guess, speaking for myself, but also as chair of the Planning Commission, your discussion at on that last topic was very useful to me. We went through some of the same discussion at the Planning Commission, and even though the 5 members who voted on that went the way they did, I think we appreciate your comments, Councilman Allison and the others, and would appreciate a little more direction because we do get split. So,
Yeah.
Thank you, though.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you for your service on that commission. Just checking the phones here for audience participation. And seeing none, we'll go to council comments. And I think we'll start with Councilman Baylor.
Yeah, thanks. No comment. I'm on the last leg of a 10-hour day. So.
Yeah, I figured. Thank you very much for calling in. I appreciate it. Councilman Guard.
No comment. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to get you out to catch that high tide. Councilman Schaefer.
It's great to see everyone in person, so that's all.
Councilman Meyer.
No comments. Thanks.
Councilman Gleason.
Thanks for the staff reports. Those were pretty informative. And thank you, Dean, if you're still on there. And I'm going fishing.
All right, good luck. Councilman Allison.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for the work you've been doing. I appreciate the efforts the community has made, and I'm certainly glad that we were able to change our emergency ordinance and relax our mandates a little bit. And but as Councilmember Meyer said, we need to show some compassion and use some common sense in you know, everybody has their choice, and to each his own. You know, that shouldn't bother you what somebody else does. So anyway, thanks for the work and the efforts, and good luck fishing out there. Be safe.
Vice Mayor Sherman.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Allison again for teaching us at another meeting, another good lesson. I think this is 2 in a row now. I really wanted to thank staff. I thought that resolution that we had in the consent calendar for the hypochlorites with the water plant, it was really well written, and it had a fiscal note, and it had an explanation of how the work is done. I kind of knew that, but it was really good to see that in there, and I'm glad that we're able to move forward with that project. Yeah, 3 cheers. And for Dean, I really like the fact that he did all the transfers in January. I don't ever remember a finance director doing that.
Yes.
But that was pretty smart.
Yeah.
And that's all I have.
Okay, there's one remaining motion.
Adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Anybody?